All right, so let's peek into specific profile and look at profile signatures. And we're going to start off with the intraday profile called the TwoSession Up Close. So the TwoSession Up Close is going to be easily identified because of how price leaves liquidity from the AM session. So the first signature is that you've got an AM rally. Second signature is that you've left AM liquidity in the form of AM high. And then the third signature is that your lunch hour will either take the low or break the high. So specifically, let's say we have our lunch range, and lunch range is always between 12 and 1. So between this time 12 and 1, you'll have only one of two things to consider. Given that your AM session was a rally, or at least I should say it's not a decline. If the AM is not a decline, then you are fairly confident that it could be a rally. So long as it's not a decline, then in the lunch range, you'll have one of two things happen. Some high, some low created at that time. And then as you come out of the lunch, you will either see a sweep, displacement, return to discount, and run higher to the AM high, or you will have a break higher, revisit, and then shift towards the AM high. So those are the two setups that we're using on this section here, and we're gonna take that second session up close and look at ways that we can tackle projections or ranges. So here's a few examples to set the stage of what we could be looking at. So we've got dollar CAD. This is back in 2020 November, and we're going to look at two examples with a kind of before and after type of mindset, right? So in the first example, we'll use this one as the first one. Price is opening at 9:30, and our lunch range is in this green area here. So price works through 9:30, and the question we have is, will this be a two session, or will this PM session be an up close, or will this PM session be a down close? So the signatures in price, what we're saying is the profile needs the AM to not be a decline. As long as it's not a decline, then we have an expectation, or we can use an expectation for the PM session. Second is that the AM high is not touched. So right now we're looking at this AM session, which goes up until 11:45. Then we have a lunch range, and we can see the AM high is not touched. We break the lunch range high, and then what we'll see is a revisit to a liquidity area around the lunch range high to then tackle the AM high. So price breaks the lunch range, keeps the AM range intact, revisits a discount array, and then goes towards the AM high, hitting both projections before 3:55. Second example, we're trying to determine if this AM session is not in a decline. If it is in a decline, then it means that the two session up close will either be stunted or is not the profile in question. We have our lunch range. We can see price breaks the high of the lunch range, and we have our AM high is intact coming out of lunch. So if we were to see a retest of this high or some discount level, and then return to the AM high. However, like we said, the AM cannot be in a decline. So this is 9:30, we run up, and then we are in a decline, which means within the session, we have a low probability chance of getting to the AM high. Get me? Makes sense so far. So now let's look at a live chart. So let's remember the signatures of a 2-session up close is that we have an AM rally, but the AM high is maintained until the PM session. Untapped liquidity above. Here's an example from ES, which would be from May 2024. So we have an AM rally, the lunch range keeps the AM high left. We see price sweep the low at 110, so after the lunch range is finalized. After that sweep, we then see price shift above. So there's a 1 minute entry here, but you can also see that even as price comes up and fails to make continuous breaks, we revisit a discount array down here, and then we shoot up to the projections. So the signature, or a profile signature, is that we have an AM session rally, we're taking a PM session trade, and we're using the lunch range to frame our entry to get to the AM high or work the projections. So the last thing on projections, so wherever your displacement is, you're taking the swing high and swing low preceding the displacement. So in this case, we're kind of using that almost basically the lunch range from this high to this low. And then as we push the projections, we can see above this liquidity our standard deviations, and you can see how price nicely touches it, retests, breaks it, nicely touches the next one, retests the previous, which has a PDRA, and even as we go later into the evening, into the ageless session, we finally get that last projection at the 3. So just some little profile signatures I thought would be helpful. All right.